We've got 272 million ounces of silver equivalent. A formula as to what the market is, less the cost of extraction, etc. And it becomes a big number. I make money when the shareholders make money.
Okay.
I'm invested. We operate at cost. We make money because we operate as shareholders,
Right.
and we don't charge as a profit center.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We're here today with Larry Page. He's the president of Manex Resource Corporation. Larry, how are you?
I'm very well indeed. Thanks for asking.
No, good to see you. You're in London. I know you're doing the rounds around the city, but you're also here for one-to-one.
That's correct.
But what I'm interested in is understanding a little bit more about Manex Resource Corporation, because you've kind of got a stable, as it were. You've got a bunch of companies that sit under that. So give us a 1-minute overview of the business, and we'll maybe pick it up from there.
Sounds fine. We're Vancouver-based.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver is the home of the Penny Dreadfuls.
Yep.
And there's a lot of companies that trade for minimal amounts of money,
Mm-hmm.
and their idea is try to turn a few cents into many dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing mineral exploration,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to turn a raw resource into a mine. I've been doing it for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
with some success
Good.
and with many failures.
Right. Okay.
And but having said that, to de-risk a project is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got an anomaly, something that looks like it could be a mine,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of science and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of energy
Mm-hmm.
to turn that project into a mine. The Manex Resource Group is a very simple situation. It's an umbrella company.
Yep.
It's composed of a lot of professional people, mm-hmm. that can bring all of the sciences and the administration, the legal, and everything that a public company needs to become successful,
Mm-hmm.
all things being equal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Manex company does. It does it on a cost-efficient basis.
Right. So you take a position in the companies which you help administratively. Do you put cash in?
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay. And I noticed that I mentioned at the beginning, you've got a track record of raising quite a bit of money.
Over the years, I've been involved in 7 properties which have become very, very successful mines.
Yeah.
And I've been involved in many that haven't quite reached that threshold. But you have to put your money where your mouth is, and that's a very important thing for the investors to know, that the principals are as fully involved as they are.
Right.
Exposure is not good, but that's the way it is.
So tell me a little bit about your background, because I want to understand why you've built. I've seen a few companies like this, not many, where they do provide services, but they don't necessarily bring along too much to the party other than charging for the administrative component. What are you bringing? Do you have a technical team as well in there?
We do. Maybe I should tell you a little bit of history.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm a
Okay.
Queen's Counsel. I've been in my profession for in excess of 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring that legal expertise as well as business expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Going back into the 70s, I ran a company called Prime Explorations.
Okay.
There was a very famous Canadian promoter called Murray Pesum. Mm-hmm. And some of your younger listeners may not know that name, but he was instrumental in raising so much capital for speculative deals. And we had big successes. The Hemlo mines in Ontario are still in existence and were found by small amounts of money going into the ground with perseverance and science and hopes. Mm-hmm. And so those mines exist because of speculative money that goes mm-hmm. into the ground. Carrying on into British Columbia, the the Snip mine, the Eskay Creek mine, they're famous in Canadian folklore. We found those using the same idea. When Murray finally left active involvement and ultimately died, I decided I would try to emulate that aspect of it.
Right.
What I brought to that was administration and legal skills. So I formed a small company, brought very competent people that had expertise essentially in mineral exploration. We're not miners, and we don't have skill as mining people, but we have skill as explorationists. And the administration, it's a back room, it's boring, but it has to happen. And you have to have the ability to raise capital. And on what was the Vancouver Stock Exchange, it's now the TSX Venture Exchange, you're either finishing a financing or you're commencing a financing. And then you have to spend the money prudently into the ground, and all things being equal, you have success.
So how does Manex Resource Corp make money? And how is that aligned with, say, how shareholders of some of the companies which sit under the Manex umbrella make money? So what's your model, first of all, for making money?
We make money. Manex is me.
Right.
I make money when the shareholders make money.
Okay.
I'm invested. We operate at cost. So when I'm paying geologists, accountants, lawyers, all of the support people that assist a public company in being successful, we make money because we operate as shareholders, and we don't charge as a profit center.
Right. Okay. So the reason I'm asking is because, again, I've seen a few of these models where I think sometimes the model is the holding company charges as much to the company's subsidiaries, as it were, underneath, and that's their model. What you're saying is shareholders, when they see the Manex name associated with the company, can be assured you are not marking up. You're providing services which cover those costs, but the bulk of your return is going to come from appreciation of share price. That's your model.
Absolutely. If an investor sees a business model where it's a cost plus 15 or cost plus something, go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly my point. Exactly my point.
The money needs to go into the ground.
Beautiful. Okay. That's that's a very short conversation. Sometimes people drag this out a bit. So that's what I'm getting at, is like your business model is truly aligned with that of shareholders of the companies which sit in your stable. Okay. So can we talk about some of the companies in the stable?
Sure.
Yeah, because you have over the years got companies I suppose, exited. You've raised money for them. You've exited. You've found new projects. That's the whole cycle. You've like I said, been doing this a while. You know what you're doing. So the first one I want to talk about is Southern Silver Exploration. Tell us a bit about that.
Sure. The gestation period of a public company is they've either been around for a while with a lot of iterations in their life, or they've just started. But I think it'd be instrumental to tell you about Western Silver.
Okay.
Western Silver, 15 years ago, was a company that had a couple of properties in excuse me, in Mexico. Had geological views that there was perhaps something there, and is struggling to raise money. We were able to convince a senior executive of Kennecott that was exploring in the world, but specifically in Mexico, to join that company as a penny dreadful, as the president of the company, and he convinced Kennecott to option a couple of Mexican properties to that company. So the building blocks were smart person, prospective property, sprinkle money on the top, manage it properly,
Yeah.
and hope that the drill stem is going to find success.
Right.
The shareholders in that company over a 5-6 year period had a $1.2 billion payday because that company developed a property in Mexico from grassroots to the largest mine in the Gold Corp empire.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't do that all the time.
No.
But if you can do it once in a while, then it's a great payday.
Yeah.
People who bought stock for pennies exited at $37.
Right. What's that got to do with Southern Silver?
Well, when that company it gets taken out because it's usually shares of the acquiring company buy the shares of the junior company.
Yeah.
Merge it up, and the shareholders of the junior company are now shareholders of something larger, and they can ride or they can sell out.
Right.
We decided, well, let's try to do it again. That was 10 years ago, and so we took a junior, renamed it Southern Silver, and used the same infrastructure in Mexico that we had in Western Silver.
Wait, we're saying infrastructure being what?
Well, infrastructure is very important when you go into somebody else's country.
Yeah.
You need to have the lawyers, the accountants, the landmen, the geologists, all of the component parts that's necessary to run a successful drill program. And that's what we did. And we had some property down in Jalisco that we spent some money on. We were not successful. And then Adrian Robles, who is a very experienced Mexican geologist, said, I think I found a property that we could buy and we can explore, and that takes us into the Southern Silver property.
Right.
It's called Cerro Las Minitas, the Hill of Many Mines. They've been around for many years with artisanal miners in a very, I wouldn't say primitive, but in a very basic way, exploiting a resource in the ground, basically taking out silver.
Yep.
And the purchase price was $4 million US. It's hard to raise that amount of money as one group, but we did it over time. And then, because of relationships, we had a relationship with Freeport-McMoRan, which is the largest copper miner in the world. And they looked at the geology and thought, maybe there's a copper mine underneath this silver, lead, zinc, near surface mineralization. So they optioned the property and said they would spend $5 million over a period of time, and that was wonderful for us because we were able to utilize some of their money to help pay for the property. As it turned out, they were a kilometer down, and they hit copper and gold. But that was an indication of what may be down there. What we were looking at was something that you could mine more near surface. Freeport-McMoRan, for its own corporate reasons, left the option agreement and left the property back in a much more enhanced manner.
How much money did they spend?
Oh, they spent $5 million.
Just the $5 million, nothing.
Well, slightly over, but it's very difficult for a junior to raise $5 million. So that was a building block, and once having achieved that, we continued to drill, and had finally paid for the property. It's very important also to note that there's no royalty burdens on a property, and lots of properties, and I would say the majority of the properties have got at least a 3% net smelter return, and it's when majors look at it, they say the economics aren't there because of that. So we're we're blessed that we don't have that. 2008 came, and that was a depression, and that was difficult, and we're moving along, and got a phone call from an old colleague who was running a company called the Electrum Group, and he explained that they had been told by their consulting geologist, a chap by the name of Larry Buchanan, Dr. Larry Buchanan, who was the founder of the San Sebastian property in Bolivia, and that made Tom Kaplan, who's the owner of Electrum, a billionaire. Great silver property. And he said, I like the model that you have, and we'd like to spend some money on your ground. Let us first participate in some financing in your company. So we started down that road, and that was a pretty good recession.
Yeah, it was a good one. I remember it.
Yeah. Good is not a pejorative word I would use, but in any event, we started down that way, and then they said, look, to put some meaningful money in the ground, let us earn into the ground, and we'll put $5 million as drilling money over a period of time. 5 years was the deal. They did it in 2 years. So they owned a 60% interest in the Mexican company that owns the property. That's usually the corporate layering that you do. And they continued to earn an interest in our equity. So they had about a 35% interest.
Yeah.
And that's a long answer to, I forget the question.
Yeah, well, I wanted to know about Southern Silver, because the thing that I look at, and shareholders look at when they've not heard of a company before, the first thing you go to, share chart, okay? Yeah. So it's been a good few months. So something's happened. I'm looking, there you go, share that with the group. Since mid-year, Silver's had a reasonable year this year, right?
Yes.
But what have you been doing at Southern Silver? What has your team been doing at Southern Silver, which has kind of helped it, do what it's done in terms of share price? It's been lows of 10, highs of whatever it is this year, 31, currently 26.
Well, sometimes during the development of a property, your team transitions, or it adds from the pure geology.
Yep.
And the geologists love to spend money drilling holes in the ground.
Love it.
And then all the science takes place with analyzing in a three-dimensional way what that really means. You got a hole here and a hole here and a hole here. And so you don't want to turn the project over to the engineers too quickly, but they come into it and you do a resource calculation. We've done at least 2 resource calculations, and you put that out in a news release. And our latest resource calculation is 23 million tons of ore. Now, what is it and what's it worth?
Yeah.
And you report it, in this case, because it's polymetallic, you report it as silver equivalency.
Right.
And so we say we've got 272 million ounces of silver equivalent.
Right.
And then you multiply that times the a formula as to what the market is, less the cost of extraction, etc. And it becomes a big number, but it's still there, it's still under the ground, it has to come out.
Yeah.
And that's how we've developed value so far.
So have you got a sort of sense of, we did have a look at the website and so forth, but have you got a sense of what it is that you've created? How much is mineable? How much is economically mineable? What do you think the value of this company is today? I know what the market cap says, but what do you think the value of this thing potentially is? With your Manex hat on, not your Southern Silver hat on.
It's well in excess of the market value. We're at a stage now where we have to do all the science and pull all of the disciplines in. Metallurgy.
Right. You're doing this
You have to look at the metallurgy to say, okay, the ore body consists of metals. What are those metals? What are the values? How do you get them out? Are they valuable? What can you sell them for? So a lot of that process is going on now.
So you're doing them out. So what studies have happened? Now you've done the PEA.
No, we haven't done a PEA.
No PEA yet.
We've
Okay,
done a resource calculation,
Yeah.
and we've announced that.
Yeah.
And we're in the process now of doing advanced metallurgy, variability testing. So instead of just taking the metallurgy from some core samples, you take it from all the core samples through some scientific method, which escapes me, but
Black magic.
but it's happening, yeah. And all of that then gets put into a mine plan,
Yeah.
and ultimately becomes a feasibility study. And if you and I were sitting down in February, I'd tell you what that answer to your question is.
So your timing, you're saying there will be a feasibility study. You haven't done PEA yet. You're going to do a PEA by when? Q1?
Yes.
Right. And then it's a question of when or if you do the feasibility study to move it forward after that, right?
Well, it's a preliminary economic assessment, which is a precursor of a feasibility study.
But a fair bit of work to do to take it to that stage.
Yeah, but we're on course and
Yeah.
we're on track, and we'll get there, and we'll have a very, very valuable ore body.
Okay, so it's been a good year for that company. You've got another 3 companies in the stable at the moment. Who's the next one in order of play for you?
We've always wanted to be on the west coast of North America.
Okay.
We don't go to Ghana, we don't go to Bechuanaland and whatnot, and lots of companies do, and they're very successful.
Yep.
But to de-risk a project, you want to make sure you've got good political risk. Without talking about the politics of North America, it's a safe jurisdiction from Alaska to Mexico, and that's where we are. So some of the companies are in British Columbia.
Yep.
We have a very big presence in Nevada and Mexico.
Right.
So if you're talking about who's my number 2 favorite child,
That's exactly the question.
it would be the Bravada company.
Right.
We were very successful 10, 12 years ago in getting a geologist named Joe Keesis, who lives in Reno, very well known, well respected. He's brought mines into production in Chile, I believe. He came into our group and had knowledge of some of the trends in Nevada, and was instrumental in us acquiring some of the properties. So over the years, we've raised millions of dollars for this company, and millions of dollars gone into the ground. The property that has the legs to become a mine again is a property that was a mine. It was called Wind Mountain, and it was an oxide gold property. And for your listeners, that simply means that near surface, the mineralization is oxidized. It can be crushed, leached, and then you get the pregnant solution out, and ultimately it becomes a metal, in this case a gold metal. And markets, this was about 15 years ago, market for gold had decreased. The company that owned the property quit mining and forgot to pay the yearly assessment to the Bureau of Land Management. And an associate company that we did business with staked the property. optioned it to us. We paid $2 million over time to put into the ground. Ultimately ended up with 100% interest, subject to a royalty to the company that optioned it to us. It's normally the way you put this sort of thing together. We think that it's got a economic assessment. It's worth about $45 million as is. We think this property, with a rise in gold, can once again become a producer as a oxide leach situation.
Right. But something that, I mean, today that's sitting around circa $5 million. Okay, it's exploration stage, right? Early
Correct,
stage, right? So it may become what it may become. But so without wanting to talk about a sort of someday company, it's like, what do we do today? What do you guys do in terms of the Manex Resource Corp? How do you help a company like this move forward? You know, how do you finance it? How do you put more people in there to get it, you know, to the next stage, as it were, or is it just a slow process? I'm just trying to understand how you help companies evolve. You know, is it a sort of manic rush to the line, or is it you want to have it, put the right things in place and make it happen, do it properly? I mean, what's your process?
Any junior company is either completing a financing or it's starting a financing.
Yeah.
And in the old days, before your time, brokers used to finance companies.
Yeah.
And they were retail brokers. They had a lot of clients that were their customers. And they would execute an underwriting agreement, and you could look to them at the end of the exercise for a check. It doesn't work anymore.
It's definitely broken. I think you've got a lot of companies coming through and they're saying the broker model just isn't there anymore. They're trying to find family office money, or they're trying to get retail money, or new pockets of money, but telling the same story. So what do you do?
Unless you have somebody with experience, like the Manex Group, you're hooped. You can't raise money. So we do non-brokered placements. You file a document with the exchange, and you put out a news release, and then you hustle. And you go out to people who want to gamble with you.
Where are you hustling? Which parts of the world?
And it's as simple as that. Well, we're in a great environment here in the UK.
But where are you doing it? So you think you come to the UK, you're here obviously in the UK, you're talking to people, but is there much going on in Canada at the moment? Canadians
have always been great speculators.
Yeah, but is that happening at the moment?
Yes.
It is.
United States, not so much. But I would say that the over-the-counter market has stabilized and has got a system now where brokers can make a market in Canadian companies.
Interesting.
And that's happened in the last 8-9 years. And so that's a very good market. You have to go down there and tell your story.
Yeah.
And certainly in Europe, 10 years ago, when the Germans finally wanted to put their money into something other than bank stocks, it was a great furore.
Yeah.
We took our Bravo company, which was the precursor to Bravada, over there at 15 cents, and within a month the market went from 15 cents to $1.97. And we were able to put a lot of money in the treasury and create a lot of value, and that company ultimately got sold on and spawned the Bravada company.
Okay, so and what was that? What type of company was that in Bravada?
It was called Bravo.
Bravo, sorry.
And it started in the Battle Mount Eureka trend when well, here's this may be interesting to your readers.
Yeah.
We utilized some science. We talked to some geophysicists, and the majors were in the Battle Mountain trend.
Yeah.
And they were in the northern Battle Mountain trend. And these geophysicists took some Landsat photos, etc., and hypothesized that some areas south of where there were mines
Yeah.
could be mines.
Right.
And we went out and staked them.
Yeah.
And we were very successful in raising money from Placer, which ultimately got taken over by a larger major, and that led to the development of some ore bodies. So it's
How long did that take?
serendipity. 3 years.
Oh, quite quick. Okay, I guess it's you got to hit the timing right. You got to hit the market right? Bit of luck in there as well as planning. Would you admit?
Yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Okay, let's go with that. I think that's true. Okay, Larry. So, okay, I got a sense of what your group is and the way you think about these companies. And I know you've got a couple of smaller, earlier stage companies in there too. But you're going to follow the same process, the well-trodden path, and build these things up. But Southern Silver is number one child at the moment.
That's right.
Trying to move that forward. Don't tell any of the other children. And then Bravada as well. So you're looking to move that forward. How? Because I didn't quite get that. What is the next step for Bravada?
Bravada needs another financing.
Right. Okay.
And how we would deploy that money is we'd go to the Wind Mountain property.
Right.
Use the science that we have deployed in the last year, and see if we can find the feeder zone at depth, which is the genesis of the ore at surface.
Right. Okay.
And if we're able to do that, then we have a huge success.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost $700,000-800,000. And if geologists are right, then we'll say we were very lucky. But we were smart, and we did it. But it's a gamble, because until you get the core out of the ground and you analyze it, you don't know what you have.
You don't know.
But we have a damn good chance of finding. They say it's a Hishikari. Now you probably don't know where Hishikari is.
Tell me what Hishikari
Me neither.
is. Right.
It's a very prolific
Good.
gold mine in Japan.
Japan, yeah.
In Japan, and it appears that the geology is very similar.
Right. Okay.
So we'll see if that model works here. Then everybody's going to say, "Joe, you're a wizard," and if not, well, good try.
Okay. Look, Larry, that's a really good introduction to the business. I do have a better sense of what you're about, what your thinking is, but also how you help to evolve these companies through. It's kind of a case of, I think Manex is a stamp of approval. So if Manex is associated, I mean, I think you would tell people that, trust me, I've done it before and I'll do it again. Is that what you're?
Well, that's it. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. You, if you can honestly deploy the majority of the money in the ground using science, then you've lessened the odds. I mean, this is not a blue chip business.
You're operating on a sort of different end of the scale at the moment, but I guess everyone hopes for more as the projects develop. But look, Di, thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Enjoy your time in London and 1-to-1.
Thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also catch us on our website, cruxinvestor.com, and Cruxcast, our podcast series. Plus, most days you can catch us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd love getting your feedback, so please keep that coming, and we'll speak to you again soon.